right, time for some real education. And today we're going to talk about Saint Catherine of Alexandria, who is of noble origin and became a Christian after having a vision. At the age of 18, she confronted the Roman Emperor Maximus, debated his pagan philosophers, and succeeded in converting many of them to Christianity. Imprisoned by the emperor, she converted his empress and the leader of his armies. Now, Maximus then, of course, had her beheaded. And she's the patron saint of libraries and librarians, as well as teachers, archivists, and all those associated with wisdom and teaching, plus all those whose livelihoods depended upon wheels.
And your mother is a librarian,
Just
right?
recently retired.
So you need to get her a scapular of Saint Catherine of
have.
Alexandria. Although she's retired now, I guess. I don't know who the patron saint of retired people is. I don't know. However, this is a beautiful painting, and this is Caravaggio. Caravaggio, if you go back to the first clip, you can kind of see him there. That's the only drawing of him we have. Caravaggio is your typical Baroque Renaissance artist who was half out of his mind. We think that maybe, I mean, a lot of these painters used lead paint, and they would put the brushes in their mouths, right? And so a lot of them had symptoms of lead poisoning, and it made Caravaggio incredibly up and down, what we would call today bipolar. But as we know, many people who suffer from things like bipolar disorder are incredibly artistic people. So it was with Caravaggio. And you go to the picture here, and she's absolutely beautiful. I have a picture of this in my office. There she is, St. Catherine, and she's looking out at us, and she's got the halo. That wheel you see with the spikes on it, that was the way that the emperor was going to first kill her. They were going to force her body onto the wheel, onto the spokes. But the story goes is that when the moment her body touched the wheel, it shattered, and you can see that the wheel is broken. And so the next way they were going to kill her was to cut her head off. And you can see that Catherine holds in her hand, really beautifully, a long, slim sword as an emblem of what was going to take her head, and that she's got it. It's a profound statement of this great saint that it's not death that she fears, right? That death that her God, her Christ, matters more than death. And you look at the absolutely voluptuous way he has painted her. She's absolutely gorgeous. She's that confident look in her eye, the way she's seated on there with both implements of torment and death that she was going to have to contend with. This is Saint Catherine of Alexandria. You mentioned how when she was arrested, she managed to convert in her very subtle, eloquent defending of Christ and Christianity. She managed to convert the emperor's own wife and the commander of his armies, the story tells us. So you go back to that picture one more time and you can see her. But it's a mark of the dysfunction of Caravaggio. And people are going to get angry about this. But he was one of the first artists that really insisted on painting. He didn't do any drawings. Most great artists drew, right, and then painted in. He did none of that. He just sat down and painted. And so he was very reliant, Caravaggio, much more than other artists, on live models. Now, he didn't have a lot of money, and so his models came from the gutter. They were poor people who needed a couple of dollars. And that woman that you see there, her name was Felice Melandroni. She was one of the most famous prostitutes in all of Rome that year, during the life of Caravaggio. She was one of the most famous courtesans in all of Rome. She was a prostitute. And so he used her, Caravaggio, in a number of paintings. Felice Melandroni is her name. And so she, besides being Saint Catherine of Alexandria, she was also in the Old Testament, Judith, right? In a great picture of Judith and Holofernes that Caravaggio painted. It's such as the vagaries of the world. Last point, 20 years ago or so, historians convinced the Catholic Church that she never really existed. They removed her from the roll call of the saints, and then for some reason they decided she does exist, and now she's back to being Saint Catherine of Alexandria.